All right, my name is Evan. This is Compleat Magic, and this is our first Tribe Talk deep dive with Atogatog Tribal. So here on my screen, I made a deck on Moxfield. Used a bunch of stuff from EDH Rec, bunch of different decks I thought were interesting, and assembled a deck I thought was very kind of telling of what Atog Tribal is about. So first off, let's talk about our commander, Atogatog. He's a 5/5 Wooburg legend creature. You can sacrifice an Atog, and Atogatog gets +X/+X till end of turn, where X is that Atog's power. So this deck's all about sacrificing Atogs, and you might be saying, what's an Atog? What's that about? Well, Atogs basically you can sacrifice either artifacts, enchantments, lands, do some discarding, and it pumps them up. This is the original Atog. You can sacrifice an artifact, give it +2/+2. Then we have enchantment, Atogs, skip your next turn to pump it up. We'll talk about Dockside in a minute. And let me go ahead and sort this by our type. I'll make it a little easier. Yep, so first up, we got 18 Atogs in this deck. What we're trying to do is we're trying to sacrifice things, bring those permanents back, and keep sacrificing our Atogs to Atogatog to just go ham on people. So we also have Atog. You can sack artifact or land. This guy, you can remove a creature from your graveyard, enchantment or discard. So you get the picture. They basically are all either sacrificing artifacts, enchantment, lands, or discarding or removing cards from the graveyard. So for any good Atog tribal deck, you're going to need lots of sack fodder, things to actually sacrifice, and you're going to need some sort of evasion, because ideally you're going to be pumping up Atogatog. You need some way for him to get through, or just deal damage directly to your opponent's face. So this deck should be a good representation of like a few different strategies you can take your Atog tribal. I went more with combat, trying to give evasion to the commander, and then just hitting them straight in the face, or using Fatal Frenzy, something like that, to give them a lot more power and trample. Key the city, makes them unblockable, adds a little bit of card draw, and I went with some haste enablers. So that's the direction I went with. I got 5 haste enablers in here that are, all pretty cheap to cast. Vidalk and Ori, I put it as a haste enabler because you can basically cast all your things on, the last opponent's end step, so it's kind of like pseudo haste. But yeah, we got the typical Lightning Greaves, Boots. This is a pretty cool card. You can attach it to one of your lands, costs 1 mountain, one red mana, and you can give target creature trample and haste. So this is perfect if you want to throw it on your commander, do some sacrifice, and bump them up. You're going to give them haste and trample over people's faces. And this guy might be one of the best cards in the deck, because just for 1 blue or red, you can enchant a creature, and if you do this on your commander, you give them +2/+2, Shroud, and haste for 1 mana. That's really good. And you can sacrifice this enchantment later. So that's kind of one thing you got to think about with the Atog deck, is you need enchantments and artifacts that give you value, give you evasion, give you some protection, help pump up your creatures, but also are good sacrifice fodder. So these guys kind of fall in that category. We got just a little sprinkling of protection for our commander, and pump is just what it sounds like, making our commander bigger, able to get through and hit people in the face. So next up, we got our ramp. So in this deck, I have all the staple ramps: Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Farseek, pretty common, 3 visits. But I also have some enchantment based ramp. So we got Fertile Ground, and where is it? Wild Growth. So just a little sprinkling of enchantment-based ramp, so we can sacrifice these later if we need to. Also, this is a great card for this deck. Black Market Connections. So basically, every turn you can make a treasure, draw a card, and make a 3/2 changeling, which is an Atog. So you can continuously just keep making Atogs, keep drawing cards, making treasures. This is such a good card in this deck. Chromatic Lantern, we've got to fix that mana. This is an interesting artifact, Chronotog Totem, because it's a mana rock for you can tap for a blue, but it can also become an Atog, and you can use his ability, same ability as Chronotog over here. You can basically give it +3/+3 and skip your next turn. So this could be like you need to give a little bit more power to your commander to swing in for a win. You don't care if you're going to miss your next turn because there's not going to be a next turn. And then Mirari's Wake, such a good card if you have multiple colors and doubles your mana, just so good. And then Greater Good. I included this one because you're going to be pumping up your creatures a lot. And if someone tries to remove your commander or one of your big Atogs, just sacrifice it and draw an insane number of cards at instant speed. And another factor that I included in this deck is a little bit of treasure generation, because treasures are artifacts, so they're good sacrifice fodder for Atog and for Megatog down here. It's not in alphabetical order. Yeah, it's in CMC order. Yeah, Megatog likes artifacts. A couple other ones take artifacts too, like Sarkatog and Atog. So if you have a Dockside or Smothering Tithe, any of these massive treasure generators, that's going to be sacrifice fodder for your Atogs, and you're going to be able to pump them up, probably swinging for a win immediately after you put down a Dockside Extortionist. So that's pretty much it for ramp. Let's move on to card advantage. So card advantage, we got a couple staples: Brainstorm, Mystic Remora. This is a really good card for this Atog tribal deck. Hatching Plans doesn't do anything when it comes down, but when you sacrifice it, draw 3 cards. So perfect sack fodder. Along with Ichor Wellspring. Draw a card when it comes into play, draw a card when it leaves. Good sack fodder. Key to the City. It's an expensive card draw, but in a pinch, get you an extra card. And of course, the staple, Sylvan Library. Gotta include it. We're doing 5 colors here. We already talked about Black Market Connections making us treasures. And Realm Walker. It's an honorary Atog. Lets you look at the top card of your library, and if it's a Atog or Changeling, cast it straight from the top, baby. Heuristic Study, you guys know what it does. Too good not to include. Sphinx's Revelation gives us some instant speed card draw, and perfect for those late game scenarios. We have a dead hand. We have a lot of mana. Let's just hold up that mana, wait till the opponent's end step, draw 7, 10 cards. Really good situationally. And Fact or Fiction, another instant speed card draw. Lets you put some cards in your hand, some in your graveyard, because that's another theme we're about to talk about with the graveyard. And Return of the Wild Speaker, it can be an emergency pump for the non-changelings, because changelings are going to be humans. But also, if your commander's huge, maybe it's a 15/15, draw 15 cards. That seems pretty good. So that goes to our next point about the direction you can take these Atog tribal decks. So I went a little bit more with combat base, but you can go more with recursion. So I put 9 different recursion cards in here because you're going to be sacrificing things, and the last thing you want to do is sacrifice all your lands and just not have any lands. So cards like Second Sunrise will help you get your lands back or anything you sacrifice during these big turns where you're sacrificing a bunch of permanents. Also, Cosmic Intervention does a similar thing. Lets you keep everything you sacrifice for the turn. And Face Reward. Probably the best recursion card, though, is Eerie Ultimatum. It's an 8-drop. It's kind of color intensive to get all the pips right. But you can return essentially your entire graveyard to the battlefield, except for, instants and sorceries. But in this kind of deck, that could be 5 lands, 5 creatures, 3 enchantments, 2 artifacts. Like, it could be a lot of stuff and just win you the game on the spot. Also included World Shaper. He mills your graveyard a little bit, adds a little bit more stuff in there. And also when he dies, you bring all your land cards back. So you can actually time it, sacrifice all your lands, then find a way to kill World Shaper, bring them all back, including the extra lands you put in from milling or whatever, or your fetch lands. Splendid Reclamation, just return all land cards from the graveyard of the battlefield tapped. Same thing, you want to be able to bring your lands back. Regrowth lets you grab one card, bring it back to your hand, reanimate, grab a creature, slap it back on the battlefield. And one of the new lands from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, Takenuma, with that channel ability, lets you mill yourself just a little bit and bring a creature planeswalker back to your hand. So pretty handy, much better than just a basic land. So a couple more cards. Enchanted Evening. This enchantment gives all permanents, makes all permanents enchantments, which is super helpful for these Atogs that need to sacrifice enchantments. Turn all your lands to enchantments, sacrifice your lands, bring them back, rinse and repeat. You get the deal. And the last part we haven't talked about is Chandra's Ignition. Basically, this is a board wipe. You're going to have like a 15-15 commander, do 15 damage to every creature and each opponent. This can win you the game on the spot. Additionally, where is it? We have Barren Glory. This is a win con that's tough to hit in pretty much any other deck because you have to have no permanents and no cards in your hand. But in this deck where you have Atogs that require you to discard, and then you can sacrifice your lands, your enchantments, artifacts, this is very possible. So this is a win con. Just throw this down the battlefield and you might find yourself, oh, let's just go ahead and sacrifice everything, kill my commander, and win the game on the upkeep. So pretty cool win con here. So yeah, different ways you can go. You can go combat based like I did here. You can lean heavier into the treasure theme, which would be really cool. Just put more treasure enablers and try and focus on Atog and Megatog to pump up your commander. You can also lean heavier on self-mill. I have like 2 self-mill cards in here, but you could put in the synergy of filling your graveyard more and recurring things because you're going to be throwing things in the graveyard anyways when you sacrifice them. So those are the different ways you can play Atog Tribal. And last thing I want to talk about is the combos that you can include in here. This is from EDH Rec. And the first one is Barren Glory plus Decree of Annihilation. We just talked about Barren Glory. Decree of Annihilation is a 10-drop. Remove all artifacts, creatures, lands, graveyards, and hands from the game. Everything but enchantments. So this is just going to ruin everyone else's board because it's going to clear out their lands, creatures, everything, and their hands. But for you, if you have Barren Glory down, all you have to do, and no other enchantments, which you could just sacrifice them if you had too many, put down Barren Glory, cast Decree of Annihilation, on your upkeep, you win. It's pretty simple. Yeah, it's cast Decree of Annihilation, you win. So that's definitely a combo you can include. Additionally, we looked at Enchanted Evening, you make everything enchantments, but Aura Thief says when it's put in the graveyard, you gain control of all enchantments. So that means you gain control of all opponents' permanents, including lands. So this is an instant scoop ability. If you get this off, you're going to get everyone's lands, everyone's creatures, artifacts, and everything, and you win. So that's a pretty neat little combo. And then this one, you basically are combining Oblivion Ring, Barren Glory, and Carevex Spite. So it requires Carevex Spite in hand and Barren Glory exiled under Oblivion Ring. So Oblivion Ring on top of your Barren Glory, and then cast Carevex Spite at the end step. Before your turn, all your permanents are sacrificed and your hand is discarded. And then Oblivion Ring will trigger and Barren Glory comes back. So basically, you could have, there's different cards that do the same thing as Oblivion Ring, but any card that has this ability, exile an online permanent, Carevex is going to make you sacrifice everything. This comes back, discard your hand, and you tax someone on for 5 life, and then you win the game on upkeep. So pretty spicy. Atog Tribal is super cool. Different ways to go with it. Let us know in the comments what you think of Atog Tribal if you're going to try it out. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and think about subscribing. Till next time, let's go!